people. So I hope everyone is doing great and thanks again. Welcome back to our CISA journey. So today we are going to cover CISA Domain 2 Governance and Management of IT. In previous video we covered CISA Domain 1. So let's move ahead with our Domain 2. So now if Domain 1 was about how to conduct an audit, Domain 2 is about what we are looking for when we audit IT governance and management. Okay, so again, this domain carries about 17% of the exam weight. That's still fewer questions than Domain 1, but I'll request all of you guys not to underestimate this domain. Don't think that Domain 2 is having a fewer questions, so it will be like not much important domain, but governance and management actually sets the tone at the top. Okay, and if this fails, no amount of good controls will save the organization. Okay, now just think of governance as the captain steering the ship. Okay, while management is the crew rowing the boat. Without direction, the ship could be rowing at full speed straight into an iceberg. Yeah. So this means that governance is actually going to make sure that the IT is being driven in an organization, and management will make sure that IT is aligned with the business objectives. Yep. So again, moving to our next slide, let's pause and ask ourselves, why does governance even matters? Yeah, why do we even need IT governance? Answer is very simple. As we all know that IT is not cheap, and every year companies are pouring million into the IT projects, especially nowadays, data centers, cloud, cybersecurity, ERP systems. But do these investments always pays off? No, it won't pays off until and unless we are making sure that IT is aligned with the business goals or business objective of an organization. Yeah, makes sense. Exactly, it does make sense. Yeah. So let's try to understand, or let's try to discuss one or two real life stories which happened back in time, which shows that why governance is actually required in an IT to drive the business. So let's start with our story one, Hershey's ERP disaster, which happened in 1999. Hershey tried to implement a new SAP ERP system right before Halloween, and that was their busiest season. So, Halloween was their busiest season. Now, what happened? The system which they got implemented was not aligned with the business needs, and hence the governance failed. As we all know, governance is basically to make sure that the IT in place is aligned with the business objectives. Yeah. Now what happened? Orders couldn't be shipped, shelves were empty, and Hershey's lost around $150 million in sales. The lesson we learned from this is IT without governance leads to business chaos. So, at the very first place, I would like to uh, m- keep you guys understand that why IT is required for an organization to run their business. The valid reason would be to make their business scalable, the business transition smooth for the customer, and to make sure that the user experience is at the place, the user are not being overwhelmed with the flow of an application, or let's say the operations are not getting overwhelmed with the request from the customers. So in order to maintain all those aspects, we need to have IT, and IT should always comes up with the governance. There must always be the governance for an IT, because IT without governance leads to business chaos. Now let's discuss our second story. Very famous brands, Nokia versus Apple. Now, Nokia had very brilliant engineers, okay, but governance failed to align IT and product strategy with changing market needs. Okay. Meanwhile, what Apple did, Apple aligned their technology with customer-centric business strategy, and we all know how that story ended. Yeah. So, moving to our next discussion, what does the governance ensures? Why governance is required? As we previously discussed, governance ensures that IT is aligned with the business goals. Yeah, it means that IT should always act as a support functions for a business to meet their objective or a goal. Then IT delivers measurable values. So by governance, we also make sure that the IT in place is actually delivering the value we wanted, or we measured, or we expected the value to be delivered by an IT. Then governance also ensures that IT risks are being managed or are managed. Governance also ensures that the resources are optimized, and governance also ensures that IT performance is being monitored in order to make sure that the IT is not being overperforming, or it's not being underperforming, because it needs to be optimized to deliver. Again, if it is overperforming, it's not going to affect the business, but definitely it is going to affect the budget for an IT. So just keep in mind that governance also ensures that the resources are optimized and IT performance is monitored. Okay. From exam perspective, whenever you are in doubt, the right answer emphasizes alignment and the value delivery. Okay. It means that uh, among the options, the correct answer would be the answer which aligns with both, which focuses both on the alignment and the business objective or the value delivery of an organization. Yeah, moving on to our next slide. Framework for governance. Yeah, this is again a very interesting concept. Yeah, so basically, this by understanding this concept, we'll understand different frameworks by which governance can be applied to an organization. Now, how do organizations structure governance? Through frameworks, actually. Yes, through frameworks. So, first is COBIT, Control Objective for Information and Related Technology. Now, this framework is actually the most exam relevant framework. COBIT defines principle, governance objectives, and management practices to be followed within an organization. It also helps an auditor to connect IT goals to business goals. Let's say, for an example, if a business goal is improve customer experience, the IT goal could be 99.9% system uptime for online services. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So, just a tip from the exam perspective, COBIT distinguishes governance from management. Okay, so when considering COBIT, governance is more aligned with evaluating direction, monitor of an IT, whereas management is more aligned with planning, building, running, and monitoring of the IT in an organization. Yeah. Moving on to our next framework, ISO IEC 38500. This is an international standard for corporate governance of IT. It focuses on three verbs: direct, evaluate, and monitor. Let's consider an example. The board directs IT to support expansion into Asia, evaluates whether IT can handle multi-currency system, and monitors progress. Yeah. Moving on to our next framework, which is a balanced scorecard. So, keeping in the fact that governance is not just about financials. So, the balance scorecard looks at the financial results, customer satisfaction, internal processes, learning, and innovation. Let's try. So just an example around balanced scorecard. A telecom measuring not just call quality, yeah, but it also measures the customer churn or the business. Basically, it's a business. Then moving on to our next framework, which is ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library. So it's basically a framework for IT service management, which covers incidents, problem, and change management of an IT. Yeah. Example, let's say an airline's booking system goes down. ITIL process dictates how quickly the service is restored and how customers are informed. Yeah. That's some real world note in exam. Remember, COBIT is your best friend. Yeah. But in real audit, you'll see organizations mixing and matching COBIT for governance, ITIL for operations, and ISO for security. Yeah. Moving on to our next slide, which describes more of what would be the roles and responsibilities within the governance and what would generally happens, or how the governance can fail if roles and responsibility are not distributed to the people and the people are not aligned with their roles and responsibilities. So let's move on. Governance failed without right people making the right decision. So let's discuss about the key roles within governance. First and foremost would be the board of directors and senior management. So they are the approver of IT strategy, and along with approving, they are also accountable for their strategies. Okay, so they are ensuring accountability as well. Okay, now IT steering committee. So again, IT steering committee is a bridge, yeah, a bridge between IT and business, which means that the IT steering committee is the one who is actually, like trying to transfer the business requirement into an IT. Yeah. So now let's say that an organization says that we want to launch our own product and we want that this product is being purchased, is being is about to is getting available to our customers with a application, or they'll, or let's say that the business will just say that we want to sell this. You Now what IT steering committee will do? IT steering committee will try to propose that we can create an application having this features so that the customer can directly install the app and purchase the product or purchase the services directly from the app. So that conversion of business into an IT is actually done by the IT steering committee, and they are the one who decides the project priorities. Okay. Then moving on to the next one, CIO or CTO of a company. So what they actually do? CIO, CTO, they translate the governance into an execution. Yeah. So which also means that they execute the IT strategies, and they are also responsible for managing the operations of IT, making sure that the IT is again meeting the business requirement. Yeah. Then risk and compliance officers, which ensures that IT risks are getting addressed and IT are improving continuously. So let's try to understand all of this with a story. Let's say a bank without a steering committee. So in a global bank, IT purchased expensive cloud solution. Okay, they were technically sound but didn't solve business needs. Now what happened? Millions got wasted. Yeah. After audit findings, the bank created a steering committee. What do you think the result would be? Definitely, now the IT investments were aligned with business priorities and ROI improved. Governance roles are like a sports team. The board are the owners setting the direction. The coach are the steering committee making strategy. Players are IT managers executing, and referees are the auditors ensuring fairness and compliance. Make sense? Yeah. So let's move to our next slide, which is IT strategy and policies. Yeah. So let's start with Governance. So, what does governance actually ensures? Governance ensures that IT strategy supports the business strategy. This is the primary responsibility of a governance in an organization. So, how they ensures that the IT strategy supports the business strategy? So, this will include defining IT policies, policies such as security policies, access policies, backup policies, data retention policies. Now, let's say change management policies. So these are the different policies. Again, these policies will be different for different organizations. These policies are always developed keeping in an account that the business objectives or the strategy decided by the senior management is getting fulfilled or is aligned with IT, and IT acts as an enabler to those strategies. Okay. Then governance will also include approving the IT investments. Yeah. It's not like that in an organization, certain department decides that, okay, we need to have this tool in place to make our work easy. It shouldn't goes like this. Definitely, they may discuss about the business case. They'll go to the IT steering committee. They'll try to communicate their business use case with the IT committee, and IT steering committee will decide what whether the investments can be made on an IT or on a product to make sure the business is running smooth. Yeah. So after that, the procurement will start. The POC will get done. Once the POC is done and it is noticed that the solution is actually providing benefit to a department to reach their business goals, the investment will be released and the solution will be implemented in an environment or in a department. Yeah. Now there are different solutions, as we all know: ERP, cloud, cybersecurity tools, etc., etc., so on and so forth. Yeah. Then governance will also ensures prioritizing projects. Yeah, which means that it will have two categories, which is business critical and which solution is nice to have. Based on that, the solutions are differentiated and the priorities are getting decided on what implementation of an IT should a team should move forward with, and whether this implementation is to be fast tracked or not. So again, this is prioritizing the projects and monitoring IT performances. So when we say about the monitoring of an IT performance, we want to make sure that IT is being utilized in an organization at the fullest capability. It shouldn't be the case that an application or a solution is having 10 modules, but out of 10 modules, we are using only one, and remaining 9 are just getting wasted. So, this again is set by the governance. Now, an exam tip: governance sets the what and why, whereas management handles the how. Let's try to understand this with a story. Governance A government agency invested in blockchain for record management without governance approval. Millions spent, but it failed. Why? Because no one had evaluated whether the blockchain was actually necessary for the business objectives. So that's how the governance plays a very major role on aligning an IT with the business, because one wrong decision and millions of money would go to just simply wasted. So let's move on to our next slide, which is IT risk management. Now, risk management is at the heart of the governance. Why do we actually even need governance? Aligning with the business strategy is required. So everything and anything comes with certain risk. Risk can't be zero. There is always be like 0.00001% of risk is also can be there. Yeah, it's not like the case that 100% safe. If someone is saying that it's 100% risk free, it means that he is simply lying. Yeah. So what are the type of IT risks? The first and the most precious or the most dangerous risk is the cyber threat, malware, ransomware, SQL injection, different kind of attacks are uh, happening in an industry, and with the increasing use of the network, the cybersecurity threats are also coming in place, and now the situation where the AI have been in an organization day in and day out, the threats are even more. Another type of IT risk could be the compliance regulations such as GDPR or HIPAA. Let's say a company is not following certain regulations which are required for an organization to have, to make sure that the data are safe or certain the regulations are certain policies enforced by a government for a region, making sure that the data of the customers or data of their citizens are being protected in a good manner, and the usability or access of those datas are to the minimal. Yeah. Then other kind of IT risk would be the operational. Let's say something as downtime or failed backup. Then vendor or third party risk is also one of the very uh, major risk in an organization. So governance requires a risk management cycle to identify risk, assess likelihood and impact, respond, mitigate, transfer, accept or avoid, and monitor continuously. So it's time for another story. Vendor payroll breach. A company outsourced payroll to a vendor. No vendor due diligence happened. The vendors was hacked. Thousands of employee records leaked. Governance failed. A risk assessment would have prevented this, right? So yeah, moving on to the exam trick. If two answers look right at the same time, pick the one that emphasizes continuous risk monitoring. Yeah, moving on to our next slide, resource management. So IT resources are limited. Yeah, budgets, staff, and technologies are limited. Governance ensured that they are being used wisely. No duplication. Why an organization should have three CRMs? Instead of that, we can use one CRM at their top capabilities. Optimization of the cost, spend where ROI is high, ensuring that the skills for an employee is there, like the employee are skilled enough. If not, then we'll plan for the training, certification, capacity planning. Then balance. There should always be a balance within an organization's IT, and balance must be between innovations and maintenance. It can't goes like, okay, let's innovate the IT and let's not maintain what is there in the system right now, which is actually delivering the business objectives. It shouldn't be like that. It should always be there should always be the balance for innovations and maintenance. Now think of IT resources like electricity in a city. You need to distribute power carefully so that making sure that hospitals are getting electricity before stadium lights. Yeah. Now, let's say a company had five overlapping data analytics platform. Each business unit bought its own tool, and the governance was missing. After auditors recommended consolidation, what happened? The cost dropped and insights became more consistent. Yeah. Let's move to our next slide, which is performance measurement. So, how do we know that the governance is working? For sure, by measuring. So, there are certain tools for measuring. First is KPI, key performance indicators, then balance scorecards and IT dashboards. Let's say, for example, in KPI, what percentage of IT products delivered on time and on budget? Percentage incidents resolved within SLA, percentage of IT budget on innovation versus maintenance. Okay. Now, a telco tracked only system uptime as an IT metric. Customers still left because services was frustrating. After adding KPIs for customer satisfaction, IT focuses on usability, not just uptime. So what happened? Those churn got dropped. It means that the customers are no more frustrated after adding KPIs for the customer satisfaction, focusing on usability and not just the uptime of the product. Yeah. From exam perspective, governance is not just writing policies, it's measuring outcomes and enforcing accountability. Yeah. So these are some of the key takeaways. Here's what you must remember for the exam. Governance is strategy, oversight, and directions. Management is all about execution, operations. COBIT is central, no governance versus the management domains. Risk management is an essential governance function. Performance measurement is a key. Always connect IT actions to business alignment and value delivery. To wrap up, Domain 2 is about making sure IT isn't just busy but busy doing the right things. Yeah, we saw examples like Hershey's ERP disaster, Nokia's decline, vendor breaches, and duplicate system, all caused by poor governance. And we saw how governance framework like COBIT, ISO 38500, ITIL, and balanced scorecard provide the structure to avoid these mistakes. In the next lecture, we'll move to Domain 3, Information System Acquisition, Development, and Implementation, where IT projects and system life cycles are audited. If this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. What's the biggest IT governance challenge you have seen? Stay curious, stay secure. See you guys in our next video. Thanks, everyone.